So I'll kind of walk you through what my workflow I was doing and then what I designed and how it works now, which is like really sick. So once a week, I was writing a newsletter article about the most recent Airbnb or short-term rental news updates, right? It was like a headline roundup type thing, right? Where I would kind of summarize the story. And the way that I was getting that information is I set up a Google alert for all of these key terms, right, that you can see here. And then Google would send me this thing where it would be like, 10, 15, 20 emails a day of like every time that Airbnb was mentioned on any type of like news article. And this is where you'd see regulation updates, you'd see just stories, you'd see all that kind of stuff, right? And then what I was having to do is kind of manually curate. Like I would like kind of look, I would read it, and I would be like, all right, like this one, Airbnb suing New Orleans, like that's important, right? And then you'd go to that article, and then I'd have like a separate prompt chain that I was just using through like the online LLM, experience where I would like copy paste the data. Like it just took a really, really, really long time. Like it was non-intuitive. Or I would share the URL with like the LM and be like, hey, summarize this article, like that kind of thing. And it took a really, really, really long time to do it. And so I was like, there has to be a better way. And so that's what I really dove into this week. Is not even then, because once I get it, then you have to curate it. You have to do a bunch of other stuff. And so what I found is this tool called Gumloop, and you're able to set up like this whole process flow that's like very, very intuitive. I just discovered this tool on Monday. I had this thing set up by Tuesday, right? So how it works is like the flow trigger is a new email that goes into my special folder, like for just these types of articles. And then what it does is it uses AI to extract the data from this this thing itself, which is just the URL. It's extracting. So it's extracting all the URLs from the body of the email. And then it runs those URLs that it pulls through a website scraper, which just basically goes to essentially this news article website, right? Pulls up the website, scrapes the information from the website, and then it feeds that website content through two separate LLM prompts that run concurrently. And that's another like really important thing that I've realized from using AI is you want to give each prompt essentially one task, right? So don't ask a prompt to pull data and summarize the data and output like, some type of a structured data like format. It's too much for any, like the prompt will miss things, and that's what causes like the hallucinations, right? And so you have it, one, just extract the data of the name, the date it was published, and the URL for the actual article. And then the other one is just a summary of the article where I have it prompted out to give me like a specific type of summary that I want to see. And then this thing takes those outputs, combines the text into one, list item, and then it joins the list item. So here's like the cool thing is that all this happens concurrently. So this is like a concurrent step for so it does this process for every single URL in this email, right? And I get this email once a day. And so then it goes through and it joins all the list items. So for all those 10 URLs, it puts them all together and it pushes it out into a Google Doc in like a Google Sheet so I could track it. But this is basically the output, like, which is really nice, where it's just the title of the article, right? The date of the article, the URL, right? And then a quick summary. And then what that then allows me to do, this is like a way better, and this is where like, again, with like AI agents, you don't want the agent bringing taste into the equation, right? Like this is where I think it's like really important for the direction that we're going as a society, right? Like anybody can benefit from this, is like you want a human in the loop to add taste, right? To curate. And so all I'm doing is like, I'm letting the AI do all the hard work of like, just for this specific step, right? Does all the hard work that, of like gathering the data, summarizing the data, like giving it to me in a format that I want. But then it allows me to go through this and be like, oh, okay, like these two articles, like Q4 financial results and Q4 financial, it's basically the same thing, right? Different URLs from different sources. Even this one's kind of the same thing, talking about the pop that the shares did. And so it lets me just kind of very quickly skim through this, and then I can then, have separate docs where I curate, and like just the way that my newsletter works here, I can like show you. but we go here, at that point I can curate, from this long list. So I get one of these emails a day, right? So there's each email has like 10 to 15 links 7 days a week. That's like 70 to 100 different articles. And I can curate that into just like the top 15 articles, like with just a really simple URL to redirect, straight there. And then I also sort and batch this where like the headline roundup for me, these are more like the entertaining, articles. And then the regulations component as well is like the ones that have to do with like litigation or like citywide like regulations that hosts need to know about. So then I can kind of take this and just batch it. Two different batches is what I'm doing essentially. One is like an entertainment batch, one is a regulations batch, and then I can have a separate prompt chain, which I can just do through like an LLM model that like formats the data into something like this once I've kind of triaged it. And then same kind of things here, and then I kind of write the intro and like these little breaks and stuff like that. But anyways, just like a really cool. I thought like this tool itself is sick. I'm going to be using this for everything that I'm doing. Anything that can be processed out. Like this is the same thing as hiring somebody to do this, right? Like you could hire a VA, like a virtual assistant, to like go and skim through your inbox and like put together summaries and all this stuff. And it's like, no, instead this is just a prompt chain where I hook up my APIs to these LLM models and boom, done. Like, and this saves me, like just this one thing saves me 3-4 hours a week of like me having to go and curate everything, like makes it way, way easier. And there's more places that you can take it, but like just for this one simple example, and I built this out in like, again, it took me like an hour or two to like build this out and just think through it. So just really, really cool. Like to me, this is like what the AI agent experience will look like, because you do want, for any quality outputs, you do want a human in the loop. Anyways, I think you guys get the point there, but that was cool. Built that out earlier this week.